Hello, friends. I recently read this book called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. He's a Wall Street man, so has some really good information about investment, business, and savings. In this book, he has discussed some around 20 different principles which can help anyone gain some really good insight into investment, savings, and business. So keep watching this video till the end if you want to learn these 20 lessons which he has discussed in this book. I still urge you to read this book, but if you don't have time, if you want to save some time, then you can watch this video till the end, and I will try to cover all the important concepts and ideas that he has discussed in this book in these 20 chapters. So keep watching till the end. This video is promoted by gurudaksh.com, but more about this at the end of the video. Being good with money has little to do with how intelligent or smart a person is, and more to do with how his behavior is towards the money. His behavior plays a very crucial role in how good or how better he is in generating or managing wealth. A person who has very less control over his emotions is usually a financial disaster. On the other hand, a person who manages his emotions in a very controlled state and treats wealth in a very controlled state of mind usually has better chances of making wealth. Also, the perception plays a pivotal role here. For example, during the World War II, where the finances of two countries, Germany and Japan, were completely eradicated, people born at that time in that situation faced huge financial crunch, and they viewed wealth in a very different way because their state of mind was very different during those times. At the same time, United States increased their stock exchange value to almost double. People who were born there had very different ideology and concepts relating to money, and therefore they treated wealth in a very different way, and of course were more capable in generating wealth than the people who were born in these two countries, which faced huge financial disasters due to war. Opportunities and threat play a vital role in determining the financial success of a person. Opportunities can hit you anytime and enhance your capabilities to make more wealth or better wealth. This is something that someone does not have any control of, and it's more or less like a gift all of a sudden hitting you, and that increases your capacity to do something better in your financial success. The same and the opposite is also true. You might face threat, you might get hit with some threats which actually diminishes your capacity to make wealth. All of a sudden you're doing everything well, and all of a sudden something happens which stops you from generating more wealth or hits your wealth pretty bad. For example, everybody knows about Bill Gates. He was a well-known entrepreneur and had all the opportunities to create wealth, and of course he became the wealthiest man in the world. But most people doesn't know that there was one more person who was born in a similar situation like Bill Gates, had all the financial opportunities and gains which Bill Gates faced during those times, but he was hit with a pretty bad threat. He met with an accident and he died. I'm talking about Mr. Kent, who was the colleague, was the college mate of Bill Gates, and he was born within the same environment which Bill Gates was born in. He had access to computers, early computers. He was doing very good in computing tasks. In fact, he was better in doing it than Bill Gates, but unfortunately he met with an accident and he died. So Bill Gates took over, and finally he became the world's richest man in building Microsoft. So that is why threats and opportunities are two sides of the same coin and can affect anybody, pretty much anybody, and impact that person in creating or diminishing wealth, which that person has no control of. The attitude of not having enough and greed is actually responsible for the downfall of a lot of people. people holding some really good positions in the society, and this greed has actually led to their downfall. For example, Mr. Rajat Gupta, who was holding a very good position in Goldman Sachs, he was one of the board of directors. He was having the membership of the board of directors, and before a major transaction happening at the financial crisis of 2008, he had this information and he shared it with someone outside the company. He shared this information with the hedge fund manager, Mr. Rajaratnam, and immediately Mr. Rajaratnam, the hedge fund manager, bought around 1,75,000 shares. Now, this happened just before Warren Buffett was going to invest in Goldman Sachs, and he was pretty much sure that the value of Goldman Sachs will rise, and thus he gave this information to the hedge fund manager, which was actually insider trading, and that guy bought a lot of shares. Now, this led the SEC to do investigation, and they found him guilty, and finally he was convicted. So just because of his greed, he took some actions which was illegal, and this led to his downfall. He lost all that he had earned. Even though he had a lot, he could not control his greed and the attitude of not having enough. So finally, he lost everything just for his greed. Compounding is more about time. It's not about the speed of returns that you get. If you talk about a Wall Street investor, one of the best Wall Street investor currently would be Jim Simons. His rate of returns is around 75%. But if you talk about a reputable investor like Warren Buffett, he was having returns of just 22%. But he took around a quarter of a century, 4 decades to complete what he made currently. So it's more about time. Compounding takes effect when time is the essence. It's not about how good you are making or how much returns you are making, but consistency and an average rate is more than enough. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two different things. In the Great Depression of 1929, when everybody lost money, I'm talking about the New York Stock Exchange, almost every big investor lost their money except Jesse Livermore. He was betting against the market. He was shorting stock. For that reason, he survived, not only survived, but made millions. But at the same time, during the same year, 1929, when he made millions, there was one guy called Abraham Jermensky. He lost everything and finally took his life. Now, fast forward 5-6 years later, in 1933, when Jesse Livermore was very confident, overconfident to be precise, started investing in large amount, started taking huge risk, and then he lost it. He lost everything. Finally, he took his life the same way. So the moral of the story is you need to maintain a balance between taking risk and being fearful about what can happen in the future. For making more wealth, you need to take risk and be optimistic, and for protecting it, you need to do exactly the opposite. That is, be fearful and have humility. So the perfect investment option is always when you take a combination approach, when you take combined approach, then that is the best kind of options that you can have for your money to compound over time. You should take risk, of course, be optimistic about the future, but at the same time, you should also be fearful and have humility and protect yourself and avoid taking huge risks. Of course, at the same time, take risk, right? So just maintain a balance between the two so that your balance remains intact, your stock remains intact, and it grows over time. 1 for 10 or 1 for 6. What do I mean by that? Always go by the average. At your stock options, when you have a portfolio of various kinds of stocks, you will always observe that one stock or two stock will always multiply over time compared to all the others. So for example, you have a portfolio of 10 or 15 different stocks. You will always observe that one or two of them always outperforms all the others, and some of them might also give you losses, but the two stocks which grows over time will compensate for all the losses that you incur and will overgrow and make your profits. The same strategy is also followed by venture capitalists. You will always see them investing in different startups, and they are also sure that there's one startup which will become a real icon, which will become a real kingpin, which will make all the profits for them. And obviously, a lot of startups will fail over time, and the losses that they incur saving those startups or investing in those startups will always be compensated by the growth of one iconic brand, or one startup which becomes a big icon or a kingmaker. So always go by the average and the one or the two stocks which always overperforms all the others. A very big question which everybody asks is, what does money buy? But Morgan Housel always thinks that money buys the one important thing, which is freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from doing whatever they want to do. Freedom from getting restrained inside premises where you have to work day in and day out so that you get paid. Freedom to go anywhere, be present anywhere, eat whatever you want to eat, live in whatever way you want to live. So freedom is actually the most valuable possession which money can buy, not any other things, not any fancy equipment or any fancy goods or any fancy stuff like expensive cars or assets like huge buildings or huge houses. These are all for the purpose of show, but the real thing which it can buy is freedom. Freedom to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do, wherever you want to do. It is one of the subtle needs of a man. Respect and admiration are something that every man seeks. Now, how do they earn it? They think that by spending money on buying expensive cars, jewelries, accessories, they bring admiration and respect, which is not really. Because Morgan Housel says that there are certain features which you should have in you which will bring more respect and admiration, not just buying expensive cars and accessories. For example, buying a Mercedes Benz and buying a new latest iPhone or Rolex watch. All these things he believes does not bring a lot of respect and admiration, though it might l- create a look which again after some time the people will think that how they can achieve it themselves rather than have respect and admiration. They will always think that, oh, it would have been better if I would have had it myself, and let's work on it. But on the other hand, if you have certain features in you, certain qualities in you like kindness, and you donate generously, generosity, helping the society, and you keep on doing acts which brings value to the society, bring more energy to the helpless, bring help to the helpless, and serve the society, that will bring you more respect and admiration rather than just buying expensive stuffs which just increases your looks, keep you shiny, but does not always earn you respect and admiration. This is the opinion of Morgan Housel in chapter 8. Being rich and being wealthy are two different things. Being rich is all about having cash and money in your bank account, which does not last long. You will find a lot of rich people across the street. When you see someone driving a fancy car or an expensive car or owning a huge building, you will obviously think that this guy is rich, but you will see that wealthy people are different. They are invisible. They may be among you, walking in the street in a very leading a very normal life. These people actually are invisible. They are very normal and they look very simple. So wealthy people do not boast of having fancy equipments or fancy cars or fancy shows. They are all about leading a normal life. On the other hand, rich people, you will always see them doing show-offs of their new fancy watch or driving a fancy car and all those things. But wealthy people does not invest in non-assets. They don't buy stuffs which do not give them returns. They don't buy liabilities. They always buy assets, and over the time, the amount compounds, and then they become wealthy. But at the same time, they don't believe in shows. They believe in having genuine wealth, which can serve them and buy them more time. There was a time in the 70s when it was believed that the world would lose all its energy resources because at the rate the consumption was happening was astounding. People thought that the entire energy sector will go down. There will be no sources of energy, mostly petroleum and all the others, coal energy and everything will really go down. But that did not happen because the availability of the natural resources increased over time. In the 90s, the entire production increased. But apart from that, the conservation was also done. The cars were made more efficient. They were using cost-efficient vehicles where fuel was not randomly used. The amount of fuel that is used for running those vehicles were less. They were consuming less, and hence all the machines and the equipment used by the people during those days, in the 90s of course, were more efficient than in the 70s. The vehicles and the machines were consuming less, and by the way, they became more efficient. So is what in lives too. If you are not saving enough, if you're earning more but if you're not saving, then it's not really efficient. So Morgan Housel says that savings is also equally important as much as your earnings, because if you're earning a lot of money and if you're not saving, then you don't have a chance of building a good wealthy base, because you will obviously lose a lot of money. You will lose your wealth over time. So savings is equally important as much as earning. Earn more and then save. Savings happen when you earn something and then you spend it. The minus between what you earn and what you spend is what is called savings. So savings is equally important. Increasing the rate of savings means reducing the rate of expenses. So reduce your expenses and increase your savings. That is a key important factor as informed by Morgan Housel. Being reasonable and being rational are two different things. Being rational is about taking cold, hard, calculated facts, analyzing that, and then taking decisions. But being reasonable is about taking human decisions, making human errors, and then taking decisions. For example, for years and years, it has been known that fever is something which is actually good for health because it helps you cure infection. Everybody knows that. Medical community people, normal people, scientists, everybody knows that fever cures infection, but fever is not seen as a good thing. That's being reasonable, because whenever somebody catches fever, the first thing that he thinks about doing is getting rid of it. Though he knows that fever can help him get cured from all the other ailments, but still he tries to get rid of fever because that's a reasonable thing to do. It creates pain, it creates weaknesses, comfortness, and it does not let you lead normally. For that reason, everybody tries to get rid of fever. Similarly, in investment too, you don't take decisions based on cold calculated spreadsheets or calculators. You just don't calculate and then decide that, okay, I'll go for this because it's giving me the maximum profits. But most of the time, decisions are taken by what your friends' opinion would be about you because of that investment, how your family would see your investment, how your colleagues, office friends, bosses, juniors, how their opinion would be about you if you make that investment. So most of the people takes decisions based on that, but not on the amount of profits that he or she will be making. This is a hard, cold fact, and people usually be reasonable rather than being rational. The present as well as future has a lot of changes and surprises. Usually the past, no, I think the past determines your present and future. I do agree, but that's not 100% because all of a sudden some events can happen which can really deter or enhance your investment. You will see most of the people in the investment circle says that your past will determine your future, but that's not true in the case of finances, because the past may impact you. It might still impact you in not in a very big way, because it might give you at least a 30 to 40% impact, but then again the real impact comes because of all of a sudden things that which we could not imagine, and that actually changes everything. Say for example the Great Depression, the World War II, then the German unification, currently the COVID situations, and a lot of other things, the Ukraine Russia crisis, the war, Russia Ukraine war. All these things were not imaginable, and it happened all of a sudden, and it impacted the global business scenario and investment and finances in a big way. So that could not be imagined previously. It happened and it impacted everyone. So don't think that the what has happened in the past will again repeat, but the future will have a lot of impacts from unforeseeable circumstances which will change what your present and future will be. You should always keep room for error. Anything can happen all of a sudden and can impact you in a big way. So always keep some backups. For example, it was actually planned by Microsoft when Bill Gates gave an instruction that they should be prepared to pay a payroll of 1 year completely, even if they are not paid with anything, even if they are not making any profits, they should still be able to pay their employees for a period of 1 year. So they planned for eventualities which can impact their businesses, and they kept some room for error. The same applies for businesses and infrastructures and investments, where if you are planning to, if you have a projection that you will be making so and so amount in the future, you should always keep some room that suddenly if something happens, then that will not impact you in a big way and you can still recover. However, make sure that your room for recovery does not make sure that you take a huge risk where you are completely wiped out. For example, Lehman Brothers were completely wiped out in 2009, and they had no chances of recovery. Also, the people who were completely wiped out in 2009 could not really invest in 2010 when they got some really good cheap rates in housing investments. So this is very important. Always keep some room for error and make sure that you do not take risk beyond that room for error, because if the losses wipes you out, then you don't have a chance of recovery. However, within the circumference of errors, room for errors, if you play within that room, then you will still recover. So keep some room for your error. It is always presumed that you will not remain what you are now next 5-10 years. So in the future, you will have a lot of different preferences. You might like something now, but then again, after 5-10 years, those things will not be liked by you. You will have some different priorities, you'll have some different preferences. All these things will change. So be prepared for that. I see a lot of mistakes people do when they stick to their career because they took some subject in their graduation, in their college days, but then even if there's not much scope for what they had studied, they still stick on to it because they think that this is what they are made out of. You should always keep yourself updated with the trend that is happening. If something gives you more benefit, even though you have not done those before, you should still be open to take those challenges and accept the trends that is happening. I'm not saying that you will jump on every new shiny objects, but do some calculation and do not stick to what you have always done, and that you are destined to do whatever you were born to do. There's no such thing. You should be flexible enough and also be open enough to take up new circumstances, take up new opportunities, because the future is for those people who are flexible with their future, with the trends that keep on happening, and ultimately increase and improve their investments over time with their flexibility. Nothing comes free. This is my favorite chapter. The price of success is always something that you have to pay. It does not come free. But most of the time, people are not good in determining the price of what they want, and they are not good in paying it. So ultimately, they don't get the success that they deserve. Also, most of the time, the price is not evident of that what you want, and ultimately, when the people are not able to pay for it, they later on complain when the bill is overdue. I think I'm making some sense. For example, the CEO of General Electric was one of the most wealthiest company to ever live on earth, and was doing some really good business till 2002. But after that, when the company started losing stocks, the value of stocks started falling drastically, and finally it was sold for pennies. The CEO of GE was actually, he had to face the brunt, and people called him unsuccessful, and he faced all those challenges. Finally, he said these words on the day of parting, that it might look easy from outside, but practically it's not that. Once you start living it, then you will know the truth. So this is what it is. If you want to build something which is successful, you have to pay for it, and the price is not always paid by money. You have to pay with a lot of other things like fear, uncertainty, challenges, obstacles. All these things you have to pay ultimately to gain the ultimate success in the end. To give an example, Netflix was not a very profitable company before 2002. It really was trading below its potential for 94% times. It was in the market, but still it was just running. But after 2002, the stock prices soared to 32,000 times, 32,000% times, and it earned him so much profit that all these pains which the CEO and the founders took during those years paid off very well. So you need to pay a price for all that you want, and the price is not always money. It is everything. It could be other than money, like uncertainty, pains, people making fun of you, inconvenience. All these prices you have to pay for getting the ultimate success in whatever you want to achieve. Never take advice from a person who is playing a different game than you. Always focus on your game, even though the person whom you are taking the advice from may play a similar game. But then be focused, understand what game you are playing, rather than taking advice from someone who is playing something which is similar to you but different than you. To give an example, some people are focused on long-term gains. In that case, you have to look on the valuations and how the company is turning up, how the profits will be over a period of time. But then if they compare themselves to day traders, then it won't be good, because A day trader is only concerned about making a few bucks at the end of the day. When the market when the market closes, all they have to do is make some money till the day is completed. But a long-term investor has to think about a lot of things because they are going to hold that stock for a longer duration. So don't play the game that someone else is playing, which may look similar to your game, but it's different. For example, at the dot-com bubble, usually bubbles are formed when short-term gains are attractive, when people tries to get some short-term gains and they see something popping up, making profits, and all they need is make a few bucks, and they dive in and start investing there. When someone is willing to play a bigger game like Google, Microsoft, and all the reputed brands, Facebook, they are not concerned about bubbles. All they are concerned about is the long-term benefit, how humanity would evolve and how their business would evolve to serve their future customers. So that is what long-term viewers think, rather than a few short-term investors who just puts in money and takes it out at the end of the day or the end of the month. So don't get attracted by shiny objects. You tell someone that he will be successful, he will be good, and finally he will become a victor in the end. He will not pay that much attention. But if you tell him that he's in trouble, then you have his undivided attention. This is true because pessimism is always viewed as intelligent, more smarter, and more valuable than optimism. This is also due to the fact that destruction can happen in an instant, but growth and success, it can happen over a period of time. Compounding takes effect when time is an essence, when after a period of time, only after that, when some time has passed, when a lot of obstacles have been overcome, troubles are overcome, and then finally you achieve success. However, failures can happen in an instant. So this is the reason why pessimism is valued more, and a lot of attention is kept on pessimism rather than optimism. The same happens for business too, because the value of a product or a service is known over a period of time. However, destruction and losses can happen in an instant. Defamation can happen in an instant, which can reduce the value of that company or that business or that product. But optimism, growth, and success happens over a long period of time. That is the reason why pessimism in our society is valued more than optimism. There are many things in life which you believe to be true just because you desperately want it to be true. This is called appealing fiction. Now, based on your understanding, you have certain perception and belief system around certain ideas, and if that concept is promoted to be true, then you believe it to be true. This should not be the case. For example, a lot of people puts examples and tries to lure investors into investing into certain stocks. They are investment gurus who keeps on telling that you need to invest in certain ways. Certain stocks are really good, you should buy it, but you should do your independent investigation. You should do your independent research to find out exactly what is true. Take a lot of opinions, factual opinions from experts, and then come to a conclusion. Don't just jump into what you want to be true just because it is appealing. The difference between what you want to be true and what you need to be true to have a favorable outcome, the gap between these two is actually something that keeps you safe and something which helps you protect your investment. So don't just believe whatever you see. Use your rational understanding after doing research and taking favorable expert opinions. A lot of opinions, of course, not just one. If you want to do some course, that can help you increase your job market visibility, then you can go to gurudaksh.com. Also, if you want to do some standalone courses which can help you increase your income independent of being hired by a company, then you can do some remarkable courses like affiliate marketing. It is also available in gurudaksh.com, and you can just go to the contact form and fill it up, and somebody from our team will contact you and get you started with the course so that you can have your independent income source. The course is in detail and has all the aspects of selling from the perspective of an affiliate marketer as well as from the seller and the buyers. Course can help really someone who wants to get started with income independent of being hired by a company, and this is the right way to start and the most easiest way to start without investing any money upfront. So get started right away. So finally, we come to the conclusion of this entire book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. In the 19th and 20th chapter, he discusses about the summary of all the 18 chapters that he has discussed. And in 20th, the final chapter, he gives his own conclusion, his own confessions relating to his investment structure. He talks something about being rational and being reasonable, something that, for example, his house that he owns gives him more security rather than leveraging it for some cheap mortgage to buy another house as an investment. He wants to lead a normal life. He can afford to not be the best investor in the world, but he cannot afford to be the worst investor in the world. So those are just the basic things that he discusses in the final chapter. And then he talks about some simple investment strategies like picking the right sector, picking up the right stocks at the right time is crucial. And even if he misses it out, he does not repent so much. So this is just the basic confessions that he does relating to his investment. So finally, we come to the conclusion of this book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. If you like this video, do hit the like button and do comment in the comment section to let me know what is the most important chapter that you think is important from this book, The Psychology of Money. And do subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet subscribed. I will keep on bringing some very valuable news and information from the knowledge section with some valuable information from books as well as videos and movies. So keep watching, and thank you for watching.